Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. This is part 19 of the iPet Goat 2 Explained series. In this series, of course, we've been going through iPet Goat 2, the video created by Heliofont and published or released in the year 2012, so 8 years ago. And we've been offering an interpretation of the video, trying to work through it and communicate not what we want to see or what we like, but what we're seeing there based on their own use of symbols, their own religion, their own understanding of what's going to happen and what they're trying to do. So the goal is to understand them. Now, I mentioned that in this video because the topic of this video is a bit sensitive. It's about I believe what may be communicated in the video is a portrayal of an assassination attempt on the president. Not that it's successful in the video, but that there would be an attempt that probably fails from what the video communicates, and that this would almost certainly be used as a pretext or a cover for clamping down even harder on opposition, and in the midst of that, eliminating whatever stands in the way of the New World Order or the Aeon of Horus being completely fulfilled, which again would be this would be a step along the way to eliminating anything left from the Aeon of Osiris, resurrection religion, sacrifice culture, the dying and rising God, these sorts of things. So Christianity, Christian culture, Christian institutions, and so on. And so what I'm going to say right up front is, of course, I in no way support that. I don't want to see anybody take a shot at president, which I think the video may communicate these creators' plan or want, the people involved in this plot. So I'm just mentioning that if that were to happen, I don't think anybody wins. I think the people who lose the most are the people they're going to pin it on, and of course that would be people like us. So let's hope that doesn't happen. That said, iPeco 2, here's the opening of it. I've already mentioned a little bit about that. If you're new to the video or new to this video or series, the Pet Goat 2, don't go looking for a first one. There's no video. The first one is a book that President Bush was reading to the students during the 9/11 attacks. He stayed in the classroom while the attacks were happening, reading to the children. The Pet Goat, the story was called. In iPet Goat 2, Bush is portrayed in the classroom again with the teacher. There's students off screen here. And over to the side, you see outside the classroom, they also had a 9/11 attack happening, Twin Towers falling, but much more than just the Twin Towers falling. If you watch the video, you'll see all sorts of catastrophes, disasters, world war, nuclear explosions, and all sorts of things that are terrible. And so what the video is depicting is the second 9/11 style attack, but much larger and greater, and this includes the collapse of the United States of America. Now, in this classroom, we have these students that are represented as moons. Each of these is a moon for a month. So we have 12 months. And so in this calendar, we'll call it a calendar, we have an eclipse. The girl is the lunar principle sitting on top of an eclipse. She is in the midst of the months that start from January to the far left and go all the way to December to the far right, going straight from left to right. First head you hit is going to be the next month. So the first month is January, then February, then March, and so on. Behind her is a rabbit called a buck. A male rabbit is a buck. We also have a buck over here. The buck is positioned here because that's the buck moon, the stag moon or buck moon, which is the first full moon after this eclipse. And the stag moon is always the full moon in July. Up until that part of the year, the grass looks fine. After that part of the year, you get wild ivy and vines. And here, if you look, the rabbit, the angry rabbit, is looking over here to this half of the year, the second half of the year. The only year that this calendar lines up with perfectly, including the barbed wire and all, is 2020. It also had an application in 2017, but that's beside the point for now because it's 2020. So let's keep focusing on this for now. What we have then is the 2020 calendar, which has China with the yin yang in barbed wire in January, and then the rest of the world under lockdown after March, the March declaration by the World Health Organization that there is a global pandemic, and that in fact is what we see. A lockdown that was very tight in April, and varying degrees of lockdown continued to the end of the year. Some months look like they almost have no lockdown left, but it's there. Now, in this video, we have presidents. We, of course, have Bush. We've already talked about him. We also have Obama. Bush turns into Obama. They're both being controlled by Satan in the video as puppets. Bush is literally hanging on strings at the opening. And he turns into Obama, so the same person basically, because really the same power is behind both of them. Then, because the video was released in 2012, those are the last two presidents up to the time of the release of the video. Obama was president when it was released, so they put Trump in the classroom. If you look closely, you have the hair combed over the same way. We have the posture identical to Trump's customary way of sitting, hands together, elbows more or less on his knees. Okay, so this is a depiction of Trump. Actually, it's interesting. Even the name of Trump is found in the book, or Donald. When we go outside the classroom, directly outside the classroom, we have this eclipse depicted again. But the word Psalm 23, or the word Psalm plus 23, written in graffiti, but it's written in a style that's very strange, right? The S is tilted sideways and has the top curling over to look like an O. The A hides the line across and looks like an N when it's combined with the L in Psalm, because it overlaps to make it look like an N. Then you have the M looking like it can be an A up to this part here. They just added this line. Totally unnecessary in the word Psalm, doesn't belong there. That's so that you get the L. And then the 2 and the 3 are written so that the 2 has a vertical line here and the 3 curls over to close up a D. So we have D-O-N-A-L-D, Donald, written right here. Now, why is Donald featured? Well, because he's the president in 2020. And if you look closely, his position is over here in the left side of the classroom. He is the March head. The buck moon is July. The eclipse is in June 21st, 3 weeks away roughly, a little less than 3 weeks away. So what we have is Trump over here. And the question is, why is he over there? Now, in the previous videos, we looked at a bullet hole, what looks like a bullet hole up here. A bullet hole or a target pin or something like that, right next to the head of this buck rabbit. That represents the buck moon. And we looked at it, we found it there. We looked outside the classroom, and I've explained this a few times, but this is the lunar south node representing the buck moon eclipse. It's a penumbral eclipse that night. And we go across, and here the pin is right before it in the chronology on this scene. You can watch other videos to see how that works. Part 5 of the series talks about this. That's when I introduce it. We went out to the Statue of Liberty scene, and we found a gun. Here's the handle, trigger, hammer, barrel, sight, okay? And it shoots over here, which hits just before the buck moon. And so we have this repeated theme. We go outside even, and we have what looks like a bullet, the cloud with unnatural streaks going the same way, coming from the side that's solar, shooting towards, again, this false flag sort of area. The island, Manhattan Island is here. So it's in the same area as we are here. This is Liberty State Park. That's the North Cove. And there's the Statue of Liberty, of course, which is right across the water from the park. Now, here's what I want to show you. We have a sequence in the classroom when Obama is president where he has the LOL on his teleprompter directly in front of the O in LOL, in front of the O in evolution. Or, well, I shouldn't say evolution because it's probably not evolution, but in what reads like evolution, it looks like it. It's your first instinct to say that. The reason it can't be that is because you have an O in evol, and that means somebody called O. But you should also have an O here if it's evolution. And we've talked about this in other videos, so I'm not going to get into it again at this moment. But what we have is an eclipse here, over this O over that O. And as they come apart, you see the O rising, the O rising. This is like the sun and the moon separating after an eclipse. This goes up, and right to the right of it, you get a little buck. That was from one of the commenters in a previous video mentioned that, hey, it looks like there's a buck up there. And I said, you're right. But here we have the LOL and the buck, but it goes up. And then immediately after this scene ends, Let me show you that buck real quick, actually. You can sort of see it, right? Maybe a stretch, may not be. I don't think it is. But that is it. You're seeing the separation after the eclipse. You go to the buck moon. You'll watch the moon. Now, so we have the buck, but more importantly, we go into this scene with the students. But notice that we're sitting at a different angle. We're not looking head on anymore like we did before, like this. There's head on. We're now looking at the side. And she has her head down. This is the repeat of what we just saw with the sequence with the eclipse, the sun rising. Her head's going to rise, and if you watch the scene, it rises at the exact same pace that the O, the yellow O in Laugh Out Loud, rose above the O in Evil. Okay, so it's rising. Here we're seeing the eclipse ending, and her head goes up, and what becomes exposed, partially hidden, is Trump's head with the antlers on it. He's representing a buck moon here, and goes up, and finally she's totally up, and we see the Three of Cups represented here with the three hearts pointing down, representing the Three of Cups, the tarot card, which refers to the first decan in the month of July. So the period, the 10-day period from about July 1st to 11th, if I recall. But July 5th is right in the middle. That's the buck moon, July 5th. And so we're seeing this clear indication of the buck moon in 2020 here, with Trump being the buck moon. Now, why would I think that this may give us a hint that there's going to be a shot taken at him? Well, remember, the shot is taken at the buck and barely misses. The buck moon almost gets hit. So if he is representing the buck moon, and the buck moon is what almost gets hit, and then at that time, what do we get in the world? The divided United States, a complete chaos. Why wouldn't we think that there's a possibility that we should be viewing it like this? The shot is taken at him and almost hits him. Now, usually when we have something in IPET Go 2, because of the way the magic is done, supposedly, you see repetition over and over again from microcosm to macrocosm. And so the question then becomes, do we have any other indications of an attempt on his life, or whether it's a real or imagined, some sort of setup where it appears like an attempt is made on his life, the president's life here. And IPET Go 2, because that would be a helpful way to confirm that the interpretation. Now, I should add, one possibility here is not just an attempt on his life physically. It could be metaphorical, a shot taken at his authority, a shot taken at his presidency, a shot taken at his policies at the time. It could be a number of things that cause division. But it looks like assassination attempt in this, at least one possible explanation. It seems plausible so far. But let's see if we have other instances, and I think we do. Let's look at the eyebrows, for example. Of course, the eyebrows, I don't know that I've actually talked about the eyebrows. I don't think I have. But the eyebrows have a 7 and a 5 in them. There's your 7, and here's your 5. Very clear. 7, 5. Another thing about the eyebrows, you get the sequence at time a bit here. We also have what looks to me very similar to the snowdrift outside. You get the upper part of like the trident, and this being a representation of the lunar south node. So that would be in year 5, but you also have the eclipse date, the buck moon date. But that would be like a trident, Neptune stationing retrograde, and then the R, this looks like an R, getting the retrograde. So Neptune retrograde, just like on the Psalm 23 graffiti, where it has the sign of Neptune with the capital R, representing the Neptune stationing retrograde on June 23rd. And then the R also looks like a wave crashing into the land, which would be related to Neptune. But this is a 5, clearly, and this here is a 7, and the two go together, and you get your 7, 5. But if you look closely here, someone said, I've never watched Julian T's videos. I believe his name is Julian T, but he's done a lot of work on IPET Go 2. And JK Bugout, I believe, or somebody mentioned that Julian T, believes that this is a representation of Trump on his back here. And it could be. And if it is, that would line up with the interpretation. We have Trump, an attempt on Trump's life related to the buck moon, 7-5. Now, if it's not Trump, it's just representing death. someone dying or whatever, that would also fit with the 7-5 reading and the buck moon. We know that's when things change and everything goes bad. I also believe that there's a reference to a tarot card in here, probably due to the position of the body, and that would be the Hanged Man. But if you look at it from this angle, this knee goes up and it turns in like an angle because of the shading. It looks like it's actually turned in like a 4. It's hard to describe, but if you see the Hanged Man card, you'll see the way the leg is, and I believe it's representing that. We have the Hanged Man, of course, on the chalkboard, and so that's going to be probably related to that tarot card. A commenter mentioned that, and that's not me coming up with the board being the Hanged Man. However, I think here we also see it now from the side. Now, do we have any other evidence of a shot taken at the president, whoever it would be? Well, here we always think of the board back here, the shark attacking the coast. But look where the shark is positioned with respect to the president's head, or just to the right. Now, this president, he morphs into Obama, and he's in the same position. But neither of them is president when this shark attack happens. So which president will be here at that time? That would be Trump. Now, one more place that we get this, it seems. Here's our fire, shot firing or whatever in the sky. That corresponds to our shot fired in the other scenes. And it's flying across the sky this direction. What's it going towards? If you look right here and look carefully, you see what looks like a face profile, a face with hair and a mullet. It sort of looks like Trump's profile when you see his hair a little longer. Okay? And so the shot itself is going to go very close to the head and just miss. So here again, it looks like a shot that just misses, possibly the president. And so that's what you have, I think. What we're looking at then is a potential, an interpretation of the video that would say that there's going to be an attempt made on the president's life that's going to fail and can be used as a pretext for greater division and clamping down on the people and crushing opposition and perhaps going after, in particular, those institutions and people associated with the Ian of Osiris that are stubbornly insisting on Christianity and the faith and so on. But that's what you have, I think. Remember, doesn't have to be a literal attempt. It could be an attempt on his authority, presidency, any number of things. However, it looks like an attempt on Trump in some respect, including the possibility of an assassination attempt. So if you like the video, like, subscribe, share, all that, and look forward to sending out another one soon. All right, take care.